right, so I have two articles for you today that basically cover the same topic, which is Trump, and this is a part of Project 2025, Trump wanting to take a institution and make sure that only people loyal to him are a part of that institution, regardless of whether it makes sense, which it doesn't, because most workers, most employees of the federal government are not political appointees. That means their job is because of their expertise. Like in this case, one, it happens to be NASA. One is military generals. Okay, NASA, there is literally no reason for them to be political. It's a part of the federal government, but they themselves are not a political institution. There isn't a political appointee to NASA. These people are simply space nerds. That is it. And the thought that these nerds also have to be Trump loyalists, or that military generals should mindlessly follow Trump. Yes, he's a commander-in-chief, but as you'll find out, that's not what we're talking about. So, yeah. There's just so many problems with Trump wanting a bunch of sycophants everywhere in government. So basically he can claim to do things like stop a hurricane with a Sharpie. Seriously, is that why they think that Biden can control the weather? Because they think that Trump can? Which, by the way, he can't, but anyway. So, first article. This is a Reuters exclusive. Conservative think tank targeting NASA employees' communications about Musk and Trump. Because that's not a red flag at all. And of course, that conservative think tank is the Heritage Foundation, which created Project 2025. So, to the article. An influential conservative think tank has asked the National Aeronautics and Space Administration to disclose what employees are discussing internally about billionaire Elon Musk and former President Donald Trump, according to federal records reviewed by Reuters. Now, it's not NASA as an organization, but the individuals within NASA, they want to see how many people within NASA are possibly mocking these people, because their skin is like translucent. That is how butthurt they get that somebody somewhere might be making fun of them. I'm sorry, if you're going to say batshit insane things, you deserve to be mocked. Especially if someone calmly explains things to you and you refuse to accept what they say because you refuse to listen. Not that what they're telling you is just nonsense, but that you refuse to accept facts, then yeah, you deserve to be mocked. Okay. The effort, involving scores of Freedom of Information requests filed by the Heritage Foundation, is part of that organization's ongoing push to help Trump weed out uncooperative civil servants if he is reelected to the White House in November, one of its executives told Reuters. All the more reason to not reelect him. Not that there was a reason to elect him, but yeah. The evidence keeps piling as to why he should not be in office. The least of which is the very things that people complained about Biden and got him out of the race because of his issues communicating, his issues with being old, can be also pointed at Donald Trump. But somehow nobody says fuck about that. They just go after Biden. So, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's not great. It is also meant to determine, in the conservatives group's view, whether agencies like NASA are thwarting progress for private companies like SpaceX, Musk's rocket and satellite venture. You do understand that what NASA does, right? I mean, what do you think they're going to find exactly? I mean, they are using his rocket, SpaceX's rocket, to bring home these 2 astronauts that are currently stranded on the International Space Station because Boeing can't get their shit together. How is that thwarting shit? All right. In an interview, Mike Howell, director of the Heritage Foundation's investigative unit, argued that NASA and other regulators obstruct innovation because they are distracted by cultural and identity politics. So there you go. They're woke. Because apparently making sure that they have the best and the brightest, regardless of the person's race, gender, or gender identity, sexual orientation. Apparently, that's a bad thing. We should just have white men because obviously white men are the only ones who are competent in anything. Instead of cool things in space, Howell said, NASA is doing all this woke stuff on the ground. I mean, the bigotry just rolls off these people. Just think about it. Like I said, it's not that they have a problem with picking the best and brightest. It's that they assume that the best and brightest happen to be white men. Seriously, that is not how life works. I know that you want to think that you are better than everyone just because you're a white man, but that's not the case. Okay, great, you're white, you're a man, wonderful. That doesn't mean that you are better than anybody else, just simply because of your race and gender. No, that's just not the way it works. Specialists in government administration said the requests are a partisan attempt to identify civil servants who oppose Trump's stated plans to appoint the business mogul, a frequent critic of regulatory bureaucracy, as a government efficiency czar. In that position, they added, Musk could help the former president reintroduce a plan from his first term to replace federal employees deemed ideologically contrary to his administration. And yes, he did actually sign an executive order shortly before he left office, just that Biden reversed that. Because and I've had people claim that presidents are dictators because executive orders exist. The thing with an executive order is the president can just wave his hand and the executive order goes bye-bye. It's not like an actual law where you have to go through Congress and they have to pass a law repealing the previous law. The president can just, with a wave of his hand, make that executive order go away. So, yeah. And I think it was called Schedule F. Yeah, I think it was called Schedule F. This is clearly part of the Heritage Foundation's endeavor to find people who are critical of Trump and Musk and put them on an undesirables list, said Kel McClanahan, a Washington lawyer and specialist on federal employment. To install loyalists, they have to figure out who to get rid of. Right. That's why they need to know what people are saying about Trump and Musk. Because if they just went up to the person and asked, because I assume that the people at NASA are actually smart enough to figure this out, they would just sing their praises and then quietly go about their business. So they have to use freedom of information requests, which I can't imagine that is a legal use of freedom of information requests to find out who Trump should go after because they were mean to him. Anyway, there's no indication that Musk or the Trump campaign have a hand in the Heritage Foundation's quest for NASA records. But I'm sure neither one would have a problem with it because, again, they both are so fragile. Their egos are so unimaginably fragile that anybody who says anything mean, obviously they're public enemy number one, because apparently they think that nobody should ever say anything mean to them. Which, considering Musk claims to be this free speech absolutist, is rather ironic. Because if you're a free speech absolutist, that should include people mocking you. But we all know that he's not. He's just cares about free speech when it's speech he likes. If it's speech he doesn't like, well, then that's different. Hell, even in Brazil, he finally relented to the censorship that Brazil wanted because he cares more about money than pretty much anything else. And his own fucking ego. Cheryl Warner, a NASA spokesperson, confirmed in an email that the agency had received an unprecedented amount of open record requests from the Heritage Foundation, including about 150 requests in a 2-day period. Again, I can't imagine any of those are actually legal, but the agency, she said, responds to all such requests on a first-come, first-served basis. Our team has been working hard to be responsive as quickly as possible as required by regulation, Warner added. Musk did not respond to requests for comment. Shocking. A spokesperson for Trump's campaign did not respond to Reuters' questions about the information requests, but said that only the former president and his advisors, not any other organization, represent his proposals for a second term. And we all know that he's just distancing himself from Project 2025 because he knows how unpopular it is. He actually has every intention of implementing Project 2025. He just doesn't want people to know that because he knows that it isn't popular, and all he cares about is getting elected. Not because he wants to screw over the country, which probably that too, but mostly to stay out of jail. All right. Since September 3rd, according to records reviewed by Reuters, the Heritage Foundation has filed at least 192 open records requests with NASA. The filings include requests for employee communications that reference either of the two men or Musk's companies, including carmaker Tesla and SpaceX, a business that has earned more than $11.8 billion in contract work with the space agency. Right. So, of course, obviously NASA must hate Musk because they're partnering with him. Yeah, that makes sense. Howell said he was unsure how many responses NASA has applied in response to the filings. The requests, he added, are part of a broader campaign of more than 65,000 requests by the Heritage Foundation in recent years seeking internal discussions about Trump and the issues of import to the group. On Wednesday, ProPublica reported about that effort. The Heritage Foundation, based in Washington, has cheered Musk's high-profile business activities, including his 2022 acquisition of X, the social media site then known as Twitter. Howell said the foundation has also filed information requests with federal law enforcement agencies to determine if they are mistreating Musk. We want to make sure that the weaponized government is not being pointed at him, he said. Oh, the projection. Because the only person who weaponized government when he was in office was Trump. So, of course, because the government isn't doing what they want it to do, obviously that means they're weaponized. Because that makes sense. Because everything these morons do is an admission. A White House spokesman did not respond to requests for comment, as they shouldn't because it's stupid. The Heritage Foundation has had close ties with the former president since at least 2016, when it advised Trump's transition team ahead of his move into the White House. More recently, it has gained attention as the source of Project 2025, an initiative seen by political insiders as a playbook for a conservative overhaul of the federal government during a second Trump term. Trump has sought to distance his campaign from the project, although he touts some of its proposals, which is hilarious because first he says, I know nothing about Project 2025, but some of the things they're doing is great. How the hell do you know that if you don't know what they're touting? Oh, yes, and many of his political advisors from the first Trump term are part of this project. As part of Project 2025, the foundation compiled a roster of thousands of conservatives Trump could put into federal positions by reviving an executive order known as Schedule F. Yay, I remembered. He introduced near the end of his pregnancy. The order, later rescinded by President Joe Biden, would have stripped many civil servants of long-standing job protections. The records reviewed by Reuters show that Heritage Foundation, Schedule F, and Project 2025 are also among the terms included in the NASA communications request. Musk has endorsed Trump and is financing a political action committee supporting Republican causes. The tycoon has grown increasingly critical of federal bureaucracy, especially the agencies that regulate SpaceX and his other businesses. On Wednesday, Reuters reported that Musk has been financing another conservative political group since at least 2022. In recent months, Trump has repeatedly said he will appoint Musk to head a government efficiency commission. Last month on X, Musk wrote, I look forward to serving America if the opportunity arises. The federal government is the country's largest employer with more than 2 million civilian employees, according to the Nonpartisan Partnership for Public Service. So that is how this article ends. So yeah, that's not great. Not great at all. So then there's this other article from The Independent. All right. Oh my God, go away. So, this is titled, Trump says he'll set up an anti-woke task force in U.S. military to monitor generals. Trump previously joined Republican pylon accusing military of being woke. Why? Because they want to keep themselves and other people safe. Because, yeah, It's not like that's the military's job or anything. All right. During a campaign event on Friday in North Carolina, Donald Trump said he would create a task force to monitor woke generals and eliminate diversity trainings in the military. Because what could possibly go wrong with that? At a time when military recruitment is down, let's just, make it even worse by saying only white men can join. They're gone, Trump told the crowd, referring to the generals. The proposal came in response to a question from Matthew Lohmeyer, a former F-15 pilot who was relieved of his command in Trump's Space Force in 2021 after criticizing diversity and inclusion training on a conservative podcast. Of course, it has to come from a whiny white man baby who is upset that his bigotry was called out. Active duty members are barred from partisan activities. So it's not just that he was saying something on a conservative podcast. He couldn't do that on a liberal podcast because he is not allowed to be partisan. So he's a whiny white man baby who thinks that he's a poor little victim for doing something that is against the rules for anybody. Okay. That tracks. Yep. At the time, the Space Force said it removed the commander due to loss of trust and confidence in his ability to lead, a decision that was based on public comments made by Lieutenant Colonel Lohmeyer in a recent podcast, which actually makes sense. I mean, it's not some bullshit reason, because think about it. If you are not white male, and definitely not straight or cis, you're basically going to question whether what's going to happen to you under this man's command. You're going to question what he thinks about you. And obviously you don't want to be working under someone who has a not so private hatred of you. So of course people are going to question his ability to lead. I mean, if I was under his command, I would question, is he commanding me to do this because I'm a woman? Or because he thinks that this is truly the best thing for me to do? So yeah, makes perfect sense. During a recording of the Information Operation Show, Lohmeyer accused members of the military of receiving training rooted in Marxism and critical race theory, a niche academic concept the GOP turned into a cudgel to attack a wide variety of policies and initiatives having to do with identity and inclusion. Okay, first off, I would love for him to go into detail what is Marxist about the training, and how can military training be Marxist is what I'd like to know. Because unlike these dingleberries, I actually know what words mean. And there is nothing that about Marxism that says anything about military training. So, and critical race theory. Again, critical race theory is a class taught in Harvard Law School showing how the laws favor white people over black people. That is it. That is what critical race theory does. Is it a small part of trying to rid the country of racism? Yes. Is it a synonym for getting rid of racism? No. No, it is not. But the fact that people have a problem with wanting to root out racism should be a red flag. I mean, why are you so proud to be racist? I mean, granted, that's better than someone who tries to hide their disgusting views. It's great that they're willing to openly admit that they're bigots, but then again, I mean, it's great because then you know who to avoid. But at the same time, why are you so proud of being a racist? Anyway, Lohmeyer also authored a book at the time about such claims, Irresistible Revolution, Marxism's Goal of Conquest and the Unmaking of the American Military. During a question and answer session at Trump's North Carolina event on Friday, Lohmeyer alleged that woke generals, whom he dubbed monsters, were dividing U.S. troops and called on the ex-president to set up a commission to monitor progressive views within the military if he's reelected. So just think about this. I'm being persecuted for my views, but let's persecute everybody else for their views. Are you fucking kidding me? Just, if you do not see the abject hypocrisy, I really don't know what to say to you, and there's no point in actually having a conversation with you because you obviously think everything your side does is amazing, and anybody who's on the opposite side are horrible people. Now, for those who are going to accuse me of hypocrisy, because that's how I feel about Trumpiets, the difference is that they show it. Whereas the other side has to make shit up in order to prove that we're monsters. Whereas all you have to do is listen to what people say or what they or look at what they do to see that these are not good people. And to some extent, if you are sitting back and saying, oh, I like this about Trump, I like that about Trump, I'm going to vote for him again, completely ignoring the damage he does to minorities, then I hope you don't ask how Hitler actually managed to take power and how the Holocaust actually managed to be a thing, how that happened. Because basically, you're on that road. All right. The former president said he would and promised he would put Lohmeyer on the anti-woke commission. Yay. Trump is no stranger to attacks on the military for being woke, despite its tradition of nonpartisanship. And there you have it. Trump doesn't like that the generals don't just slobber their praise all over him. That is ultimately that is his problem. That people aren't treating him like a god. In 2021, Trump called for the resignation of then Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley, falsely claiming the top military leader went to Congress and actually defended critical race theory being shoved down the throats of our soldiers. Again, that is not what critical race theory is. Plus, asking soldiers not to be racist is probably not the worst thing in the world. Nor did Mark Milley do that. So, yeah, absolutely nothing he said was true, but oh wait. Whenever Trump opens his mouth, he spews lies. So, yeah, that tracks. Mr. Trump said at the time that Mr. Milley must resign and be replaced with someone who is actually willing to defend our military from the leftist radicals who hate our country and our flag. Yeah, I don't have to tell you that accusing someone who devoted his life to protecting his country and then accusing him of actually being an agent for treason and traitors. That doesn't stand. That just doesn't sit well at all. The attacks on Milley came after the general testified before Congress that year and defended courses at U.S. service academies dealing with topics like racism and identity from attacks by Republicans. And there you have it. You couldn't scream racism is good and bigotry is good more than that. Seriously, how can you look at someone who is trying to make the military safe for non-cis straight white men to be a part of and to assure them that they aren't going to be hurt by their fellow soldiers and turn that into a bad thing? And again, military recruitment is down. So you would think you would want to open the doors to people who actually want to be part of the military, but also don't want to use the military as a means to causing havoc when they get out. So maybe that's why military recruitment is down, because the people who actually want to join are the ones who actually want to use those skills to become domestic terrorists. That might have something to do with it. On the issue of critical race theory, etc., a lot of us have to get much smarter on whatever the theory is, Miley said. He also tied his interest in social justice to January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it. What is it that caused thousands of people to assault this building and try to overturn the Constitution of the United States of America? What caused that? I want to find that out, Milley added. Yeah, that sounds horribly radical and horribly anti-American. What the hell, guys? Homeland Security officials warned that year that domestic violent extremism, including within the ranks of U.S. security branches, was a top terror threat to the country. Domestic violent extremism poses the most lethal and persistent terrorism-related threat to our country today, Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said in a statement at the time. As we work to safeguard our nation, we must be vigilant in our efforts to identify and combat domestic violent extremism within both the broader community and our own organization. Hateful acts and violent extremism will not be tolerated within our department. Yeah, that sounds just horribly anti-American. Seriously, what the heck? Why would you consider that to be bad? And of course, how do you really think that that military are a bunch of attack dogs that you have to hold back and release on the enemy when time comes? And just otherwise keep them in cages otherwise? Seriously, what exactly do these people think the military is? Over the last decade, right-wing extremists in the U.S. are responsible for the great majority of extremism-related murders, according to the Anti-Defamation League. In office, Trump was also quick to criticize what he saw as left-wing causes in the military, including banning many trans people from serving in the armed forces. Why? What exactly is the point of that? I mean, what is the thinking to prevent that? Now, there are people who think that trans people are mentally ill. Now, do they have mental health issues? Yes, because they're being treated like shit for being trans. So, yeah, that would cause anyone mental health issues. And then there's, this, of course, trying to figure out, are you really trans? And going through the actual process of transitioning, which isn't easy. So, do they have mental health issues? Yes, but a lot of people in the military have mental health issues, especially those who've actually seen combat. But nobody stops them. Nobody stops them from serving. But somehow trans people, yeah, we can't have them. A person who is openly trans and is free to transition and live life the way they feel comfortable isn't at risk of shooting up a military base. Nobody who shot up a military base has ever been trans. So, no, they're not more susceptible to mental health issues than anybody else. Because once they are happily, openly trans and can transition the way they want, whatever dysphoria they had, at least lessens, if not necessarily goes away, depends on the dysphoria, then their mental health issues are pretty much no different than anybody else's. Because let's face it, when boys and girls are growing up, especially going through puberty, there is this love-hate relationship with their body. You know, oh, I don't like the way this looks. I don't like the way that looks because I'm comparing it with other people. I'm not big enough. I'm too big, whatever the case may be. I mean, so that everybody goes through. So everybody has mental health challenges throughout their life. But going after a group of people simply for existing, yeah, that's not going to help their mental health at all. Anyway, he has also said Millie should be executed for reassuring his Chinese counterpart of the United States' stability during the chaotic final weeks of Trump's presidency. Seriously, that makes him a traitor? By reassuring the world that the U.S. isn't going to do something bonkers? I'm sorry, what? Oh yeah, we're not going to hurt you. You're safe. So that makes him a traitor to tell the rest of the world that the transition is going to happen, that the US isn't going to implode or attack you willy-nilly. Okay. Nothing like people who have no idea how anything works. So anyway, that is the end of those two articles. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video.